Just let it in.
It's a Star Wars show, and I'm your host, Jon Justice. Welcome to another episode. If you want to email me, as always, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. You can also leave a comment up on YouTube, and follow me on social media, at Jon Justice on X, at The Jon Justice on TikTok, Jon Justice on Facebook, and that's Jon, Jon. On the show this week, got a couple of stories that we'll share, news items, and we'll get into a few of your emails from the past week. I hope you are having a fantastic holiday season, and I probably mention this every year since we've had a Star Wars movie in the holiday season, but I miss it. I liked those initial years of the Disney Star Wars era and having the ability to look forward to a new Star Wars movie. Of course, we have The Mandalorian and Grogu coming out next year. Looking forward to that, obviously, if you listen to the show for any length of time. I've made comments on that. We have Avatar coming up next week, so it's kind of replacing Star Wars. I'm a big Avatar fan, but no new Star Wars until next year, and certainly not during the holiday season. However, along with getting new Star Wars in the form of The Mandalorian and Grogu and Starfighter in 2027, we're also getting something else rather special in 2027, February of 2027, and that is the return of the original Star Wars for its 50th anniversary, and it's a rather unique release.
No, my father didn't fight in the wars. He was a navigator on a spice freighter.
That's what your uncle told you. He didn't hold with your father's ideals, thought he should have stayed here and not gotten involved.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
Yes. I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
So there's been rumors going around and photos and samples of a potential for a newly restored original 1977 version of Star Wars prior to its getting A New Hope in the opening crawl that was being worked on by those over at Lucasfilm. Now, if you've been online at all and spent any time looking for it, you know that there does exist Blu-ray, high-quality 1080p copies of what the fans call despecialized editions. Fans have painstakingly throughout the years combed through all of the available versions of Star Wars and pieced together, because they did at one point release the original trilogy unedited before George Lucas went and made the special editions on DVD upon one of the initial releases of the films being released, along with the prequel trilogy. I believe they were attached to some of the prequel trilogy releases. So there are ways to go and watch pristine versions of the original film. Now, that being said, this would be actually taken from the masters going back to 1977. So, coming up in February of 2027 to mark the 50th anniversary of the original Star Wars, you will be able to head to your local movie theater to see the original non-special edition version of Star Wars A New Hope, but again, without the A New Hope title attached to it. For me personally, this is more of an event that highlights how Star Wars has been handed down via generations, and more serves as a curiosity and a piece of incredible, noteworthy, historical significance. That's the way that I look at this. And I guess another way to put it is, I'm not clamoring to head to the theaters to see that original 1977 version, apart from being able to go see it with my father. That, to me, is the most important aspect of this. If I never had the opportunity to see the original version of the first Star Wars again, I would be okay. And if I really wanted to, and I have in the past, I would go and watch those. I could go and watch those despecialized versions. But being that Star Wars was such a cultural phenomenon, I mean, it changed the world in terms of entertainment, and beyond that, it does carry a lot of historical significance. And I'm planning on going to see my father And to see this film with him, considering the fact that he brought me to the movie theater to see it when it was originally released, and I was only 5 years old. And that movie changed in my life, as it changed to so many individuals' lives. That is the significance of the release of this film on the big screen. Now, I know for many, probably millions, of hardcore fans, this is the version that they've been clamoring to see for just decades upon decades. For that nostalgia reason. And I certainly respect that. But I also very much respect George Lucas in his vision of the version that he wants people to go and see. And he has said that those original versions of the film just don't exist in his mind. The special editions do. The ones that he's worked on and worked with for years, including the changes that were made to the release when it landed on Disney Plus. I don't mean to downplay, and I hope it doesn't sound like that. To downplay the significance of this. This is a big deal. Fans have been clamoring for this for decades. But I just respect the creator in this case. I'm trying to think of another scenario wherein, a director has, a similar circumstance to what George Lucas has done with these films and not wanting people to see the original versions. I suppose there is. But in this case, I like the fact that George created a film and changed it because he had limitations when it was originally released. And I also respect the fact that version that didn't have everything that George wanted in it became a cultural phenomenon. So I'm looking forward to it from that aspect. Plus, I think it'll be a good opportunity for Star Wars to gain some positivity within the fandom after so much negativity now that you see online in, social media, on YouTube, and, the discourse that takes place. It is the world we live in now. It's not going to change anytime soon. As a matter of fact, I'll talk a little bit about this coming up with one of the emails that I have this week. So, is it exciting? Sure, it's exciting, but it's exciting for me because I get to go and spend it with my dad and do something that I never thought I would get a chance to do. This would be wholly different, and this is significant from this standpoint. And I'm probably belaboring the point at this moment, so I apologize for that. It's been an incredibly long day. But if this had been the special edition re-released on the big screen, I wouldn't be wanting to travel to California to go see it with my father. It wouldn't carry the same significance. It only carries that significance because I'll be able to sit in the movie theater next to my dad and just imagine being 5 years old watching that exact movie again on the big screen, even though if I never saw that exact version again, I would be completely fine. I'm curious to get your thoughts. As always, drop me an email or go ahead and leave a comment up on YouTube.
This is not going to go the way you think.
In other Star Wars news, Daisy Ridley, talking with Variety magazine, mentioned the Ben Solo film, A Hunt for Ben Solo. Daisy Ridley, starring opposite Adam Driver in those 3 Star Wars films between 2015 and 2019. You can consider her shocked when the news broke in October about the scrapped standalone Star Wars movie. Driver had revealed the film's existence in an interview with the Associated Press, explaining that he had been developing a Ben Solo movie for 2 years with Steven Soderbergh. Then Disney executive pulled the plug on the story, or on the movie itself. So Ridley, in a story from Variety, talking with IGN, said, "I know a piece of it," when asked if she was aware of the hunt for Ben Solo. "I heard rumblings. I have lots of friends who are on the crew, so things like that always travel around. But whoa, when the story came out, I was like, no, oh my gosh, it was him that said it, right? Meaning it was Adam Driver. It was funny because, like, oh wow, Adam is saying it. So that was a big surprise. So the takeaway from this, and there's not a lot to take away from this, but the takeaway from this is Daisy Ridley obviously was aware of the Hunt for Ben Solo movie. I mean, this film would have included her, as I imagine she would have been one of the individuals going on the hunt for Ben Solo. And the fact that they had gotten as far as they did in the production, to the point where they were already going into pre-production. The script was done and written. I have to assume that Daisy Ridley has seen it in its entirety and signed off on it. I'm still very much of the opinion that this is a slow rollout to the inevitable announcement that they're going to make the Hunt for Ben Solo movie. The Rey post The Rise of Skywalker movie is all but dead at this point in time. We still are being told that there is that off in the distance film by James Mangold, The Origin of the Jedi, sitting out there, but I also don't think that's going to happen. All that we know for sure is Starfighter and The Mandalorian and Grogu, and I'm convinced that this film, The Hunt for Ben Solo, is going to be the extension directly off of The Rise of Skywalker. Now, that may be dependent on how Starfighter turns out, not its release and how it does, but once the finished product, or at least as close to the finished product, can be seen by those in charge at Lucasfilm, I imagine that's when it'll inevitably get the green light. So the fact that Daisy Ridley is talking about it now, and she would be aware of this, to me is just further indication that that movie is more than likely going to be made. Now, one more item I want to mention, and I've seen some other commentary about this. There's some thought that Lucasfilm and Disney are trying to reset what had taken place via the sequel trilogy, meaning picking up where the sequel trilogy, prior to the sequel trilogy, and basically remapping the direction in which the franchise is going. A lot of people believe that's what The Mandalorian and Grogu is intending to do. So the speculation is the Mandalorian and Grogu film, while an extension of the Mandalorian series, that the film in and of itself could be positioned in such a way as if to say the sequel trilogy never existed, meaning the storytelling will continue to branch off out of the Mandoverse and move away from the sequel trilogy. Now, I don't buy into a lot of this basically because of what I just pontificated on a moment ago, and that I do believe that Hunt for Ben Solo film is going to take place, and that would be a direct extension from The Rise of Skywalker. But that is currently sort of the thought process that a lot of people have, that in their minds they're saying it's a retcon, and they're doing away with the sequel trilogy, and they're doing this because The Mandalorian and Grogu is becoming a de facto Episode 7, and I don't buy that. I don't buy that for a moment. I just wanted to share it with you because I thought it was an interesting theory. I think that the idea that they'll be focusing on that particular timeline, and that will sort of take a left turn away in terms of the storytelling and the characters from the sequel trilogy, that I can buy into. But the sequel trilogy is here to stay. It's a part of canon. It's never going to be removed. And in a relatively short period of time, it's going to become fondly remembered, just like the prequel trilogy was. This is just the nature of the fandom right now, and the discourse within the fandom, and the way that we conduct ourselves in terms of commentary within the entertainment space.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
So with that being said, let's go ahead and get to your listener feedback this week. Got a comment from Star Wars Santa, and we got a great email here from friend of the show, Luke Westover, who writes this. I recently listened to your Star Wars show and the episode about the new Starfighter tidbits. I appreciate them. Also, thank you for saying why you've been relatively inconsistent with the releases of your Star Wars show. No judgment. I've been guilty of similar things. Yeah, it's just that time of year. As far as Sean Levy's work goes, I've only seen Night at the Museum and Free Guy, assuming he did do Free Guy. Please correct me if I'm wrong about that one. No, he did do Free Guy. I really hope that he does bring the same level of heart to the story and characters like he did in the Night at the Museum trilogy. As a matter of fact, let me double check that. So I'm going to take off my headphones and walk away from the microphone for just a second here. I'm going to walk over to my Blu-rays. Let me pull up Free Guy. Where did I put it? Hang on. And yes. I was 99% sure. No, I'm 100% sure. His name's right there on the back of the Blu-ray box. All right. back to Luke's email. So he says, the kind of heart that reminds me of the works of Steven Spielberg, James Cameron, Joshua Hamilton, Christopher Miller, Phil Lord, Robert Rodriguez, John Lasseter, Brad Bird, Pete Docter, Andrew Stanton, Jon Favreau, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, and Walt Disney himself, among others. Also, in a funny sense, when I hear the name Ryan Gosling, I don't really think of Star Wars, but rom-coms instead. Interesting. So much subjectivity in all of this, right? But I'm willing enough to see what happens before giving him any criticism. You got to watch Fall Guy. He makes a great action star. First Man's another one. First Man's a fantastic story of the early goings of space travel within that film. A great film. But yeah, Fall Guy is a good one. He's a great action star. Much like how some people felt when Michael Keaton was a surprisingly good version of Batman in the 1989 Tim Burton movie Batman. You also mentioned that the ending of Starfighter had to be changed. That, combined with how much damage the larger Star Wars fandom has seen done by Disney and Kathleen Kennedy, I have to say that I'm cautiously optimistic at best. I really hope that we don't get the same level of disappointment that we saw from Solo, Indiana Jones 5, and most recently Tron Ares. However, like most any other Star Wars release, I'll wait and see what happens. And if I have anything to say about it, I'll be as polite about my piece as possible and not attack those who like it if things go sour overall. As I always say, and thank you, Luke, for the email. Listen, as I always say, this is subjective. He wraps up saying, P.S. I'm mildly curious about The Mandalorian and Grogu. We are all such victims of the commentary within our society now. Again, it's not changing anytime soon. But so many of those films that he mentioned would be more well-received if we didn't live in this world of interconnectivity that we live in right now. And again, I'm speaking about something that is, the cat is out of the bag, the horse has left the barn, however you want to describe it. Perhaps generations down the line will disconnect from the Black Mirrors in their hands, but I don't have any expectation that's going to happen. But the way that we conduct ourselves and how movies get so much commentary even before they're released, and individuals' minds are set and opinions are crafted even before they've seen the final product. I mean, you have videos that are made from individuals who haven't even seen the product that are complaining about it. Tron Ares is a great example. Is it a perfect film? No. But no films are. But neither was Legacy or the original Tron. But they're fun, great movies. And people loved Tron Ares, but it didn't do well in the box office because of the bad word of mouth. And a lot of the same can be said of the sequel trilogy. I don't think they would have been nearly as negatively received if there hadn't been so much groupthink attached to that commentary around it, and that was mostly because the majority of it was caused because of just how interconnected we are. Algorithms that feed the same information over and over again, it becomes cemented in your mind, and we've become a species wherein it's very hard for individuals to change their opinion or if ever admit that they were wrong. So, and again, this is not saying that Luke's opinion was wrong in any way. It's just saying that we have differences of opinion, and the negativity around so many of these projects is just because of that groupthink taking place. It'd be a much different world. And I remember that world. If I'm getting nostalgic and I'm going back to seeing that original film and growing up on movies and being a Star Wars film fan because of Star Wars. I mean, I remember when those films were released and you would just talk about it amongst your buddies, and that was about as big as the groupthink got. Your friends and family when you talked about a movie, word of mouth, and word of mouth could only spread so far. So I don't want to sound like the old man staring at the cloud, yelling at the clouds, just lamenting how things are, but it is the way that it is, and I'm easily entertained. By the way, if you want to see what I've been watching, which is actually quite comical, you can go to letterboxd.com, and that's no ED, it's letterboxd, so letterbox. If you look up Jon Justice, Jon, you'll find my account there. It's open to everybody to see. So it's a website where you can go and log the movies you're watching. So I've been doing that ever since, I guess, the beginning of October. So as you will see by the list of those movies, I'm easily entertained. Let's put it that way. All right, friend of the show, Star Wars Santa, writes this. Project Hail Mary is my second most anticipated movie for 2026. So at number 5 would be Jumanji 4. for Star Wars Santa. Number 4, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Number 3, Avengers Doomsday. I'm waiting to see the trailer on that with Avatar next week. 2, Project Hail Mary, and 1, The Mandalorian and Grogu. You know, I need to go and put together a list of my most anticipated films for next year. I haven't done that yet. But as always, Star Wars Santa, thank you so much for your comments. It's always great to hear from you, and I encourage everybody to head on over to Star Wars Santa's YouTube page and check out his show as well. Look, that wraps up the show for this week. I'll certainly have an episode sometime before Christmas comes out. I'll make sure I get a Christmas episode in here. But thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. As always, if you haven't had the opportunity yet to pick up any of the books in my 7-book science fiction space opera series, EMBARK, I hope you'll take the opportunity to do so, especially during this holiday season. A fantastic gift for yourself, the sci-fi fan, a friend, or a family member. Star Wars Santa has given them the thumbs up, although I don't know if he's finished the series yet. I'm assuming he has, and I'm assuming he enjoyed it since he got through most of the books, so I'll wait to hear from him when he hears this comment. So, it's a fun, fast-paced, action-packed science fiction adventure without an agenda. Again, 7 books in all in the series. In the first book, Katha's father died 1 year ago. Yesterday, he gave her the key to saving humanity. She just doesn't know it yet. That's the log line to the story, where deep inside D-Corp, the planet's largest civilian and military spacecraft factory, an industrial accident has set off a catastrophic chain of events. Unaware of the disaster, Taftgardia eagerly agrees to help fellow pilot Katha Morrow investigate a cryptic message from her past. War erupts as D-Corp's ruthless leader attempts to exploit the chaos and seize control. Meanwhile, Taft and Katha discover what may be the only hope of saving Earth's evacuees from annihilation, if they can survive the apocalypse first. Head on over to Amazon.com and search for EMBARK, E-M-B-A-R-K, and Jon, J-O-N, Justice, and you'll find all 7 books available in ebook, free on Kindle Unlimited, hardcover, paperback, and audiobook. Again, I hope you're having a fantastic holiday season so far. Thank you so much for checking out this episode. I look forward to hearing from you between now and the next episode, probably next week. Until then, I hope wherever you are, you're happy. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're safe. God bless. Early Merry Christmas to you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
The Force will be with you, always.
My nerd world.